So my story of the pandemic started in the weekend of the 14th of March 2020, and my partner and I had gone to Glasgow for a theatre show. And we had actually at that point, having started off in January thinking, oh, this is all nonsense, there's only a couple of people and it won't ever get here, and you know, why are all those students wearing masks? It had got a bit closer by that point. So we swithered about going to Glasgow, but we decided we would just do it because we thought that might be the last chance we had to go away. So and I think it was just funny how quickly things changed over those 2 days in Glasgow. And I still remember going up and the station toilets had started to have these signs saying, don't forget to wash your hands. There was none of the social distancing yet, but even that I thought, oh, that's overkill. It's health and safety gone mad, it won't matter. So we went to our show in the afternoon, but I think Glasgow, we'd been up a couple of weeks before. Glasgow was appreciably quieter. We did suddenly notice that there was less people wandering around in the streets, and a few more people wearing masks. And we went out in the evening to another music show. Again, it was quieter than it would normally have been. The next day we were to have gone back to Arran. We were going back to Arran, but as is commonly happens, the boat was on alert and wasn't running during the day, so we sort of killed time by wandering around Glasgow. And Glasgow had an almost kind of relaxed, sort of festive atmosphere because it was suddenly so quiet. But throughout the day, it just seems like things were escalating really quickly, and we began to think, oh my goodness, I really hope we're going to be able to get home. So we did finally get the last boat, and on the boat, one of the crew members said, oh, you just hope it doesn't hit the ferries, because if somebody has COVID on the ferries, the whole ferry will be off. And we were all like, oh, that's not going to happen. But it was a very busy boat. I think everybody felt the same, they needed to get back. So then through the week, I went to work as normal on the Monday, and I said to my customers, oh yes, I'll see you, don't worry, of course nothing's going to happen, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And then on Wednesday morning, my partner woke up with a cough and a temperature. So I phoned the health service, the medical service, and they at first said, oh, no, it's fine, it could be any other bug, you know, don't worry. When I phoned at lunchtime, they wouldn't take my call, and they told me to phone the national line. And to this day, we still don't know whether he had COVID or not. And at that point, work was still normal and open as normal and going in as normal. So I stayed off on the Thursday, and then my colleagues on the Friday were to close up. And so we'd gone from the beginning of the week to being treated as normal. By the end of the week, it was shut down. So then I was stuck at home for 4 months. The nature of my job meant that we couldn't, working with the public, we couldn't be open. And there wasn't anything really we could do at home. So I asked if I could help with the community garden. So that was agreed, and I spent the summer working at the community garden and doing bits of admin and research online as required. And if somebody had said to me prior to that, oh, you'll be off work, but you'll still get your salary, I would have said, oh yeah, that's amazing. But of course, we could do nothing, we couldn't go out anywhere. As I say, we live on Arran, so we had, I think, a bit more freedom here than maybe in the cities. The hour's walk, we could go quite far, we didn't run the risk of meeting anybody. It was quite nice. It was nice, I have to say, not to have the stress of work. I slept better than I had usually slept, but in contrast to that was this very surreal feeling that we were living through some horrendous disaster movie. And I do remember my most vivid memory was going down to watch the boat come in, the 4:40 leaving, the 3:15 coming in, and normally there would be a flood of cars coming off and a flood of people, and one person walked down the walkway and one car came off and I just burst into tears. I think that really brought it home to me. It wasn't all bad. The island became a sort of gated community, and so we had nobody was allowed to leave really, or leave or come back without due reason. Sadly, my mother-in-law died that year and we had to get special permission to go to Glasgow for the day for her funeral, and again that was very surreal to go through Glasgow with no traffic and no people. We had to take sandwiches, there were no toilets open, we had to have a pee in one of the parks because nothing was open, and we just had to come straight back, and as I say, we had to show a letter on the boat to prove why we had to go to the mainland. But I think the community on the island bonded in many ways, because we sort of had this feeling of it all being, we were all in it together. However, the downside was there was a bit of paranoia about people who had holiday houses and who should have been here when they shouldn't be here, and who had lights on at night when they shouldn't have had. There was quite a bit of, as I say, unpleasantness and paranoia, which seems very odd looking back, but people genuinely did feel like that. By August of 2020, I went back to work, and I was so relieved to actually be back and have some kind of routine in my life. I was happy to be back and see my colleagues. We worked through till December, shut supposedly for Christmas, and then there was the second lockdown of January 2021, and that was much worse than the first one. The first one, the weather was lovely, we could go out and about. The second one, the weather was terrible. We'd got used to having a bit of freedom again, and that was all closed down. So I tried to do what I could and do a bit of studying, try and brush up my kind of skill. It was quite hard to stay focused. And in the April, I was asked if I would go and work in the high school library, because the previous librarian had retired. So I was a bit dubious, because I was then going to be thrown into a whole school of children, and I thought I'm bound to get COVID. But actually it was fine. And what I also forget is that, of course, we just got into the way of wearing masks all the time. It was just commonplace, and the young people were very accommodating. And ironically, I never got COVID until this year, 2023, when I travelled by bus with my bus pass up to Aviemore, and I'm sure I got COVID on the bus. But working in a school of 200 children, I was never ill. So that was my new job, working in the high school, and actually, because of that, having just gone in as a temporary measure as cover, over the last couple of years I decided that I liked it, and I've now stayed there. That I've had a complete change of job. Partly I reassessed over COVID, as everybody did. I reassessed my priorities. I didn't want to have as much pressure. I didn't want to work as long hours. I'm over 60 now, and luckily nobody really on the island, well, I knew nobody who died from COVID. I did know some people who were ill with COVID, but it does make you think that life is short, and I didn't want to carry on working full time and be under pressure and waking in the night worrying about things. So I then chose an easier job, a lower grade job, but one that I wasn't going to worry about quite so much. And because it's a new job, I have more enthusiasm for it, and it's a sort of fresh start. And I think gradually over I didn't leave the island for a whole year. So from March 2020 until May 21, I never left the island apart from my mother-in-law's funeral. And it felt very strange to start travelling on the mainland. And April 2022, when the last of the restrictions were lifted, I did think, oh well, I'll just carry on wearing a mask because it had become commonplace to wear it to the co-op or wear it out and about. Although there were lots of inconsistencies, you had to wear a mask in the co-op, but you didn't in a crowded cafe. But we all just followed the rules. But oddly, again, it was a weekend in Glasgow where I went up wearing my mask on the train. But then hardly anybody was wearing masks on the train, and we went to visit the Borough collection and realised we didn't have to wear a mask, and to have 2 hours of inside not wearing a mask just felt like such freedom. We went out to a concert in the evening, the same thing, nobody was wearing masks. And I came back from that weekend just thinking, no, that's it, I'm not going back to that. Having thought I would wear it for the sake of my community, which I still would. I still have done it occasionally when I was asked, but that sort of felt for me like the end of COVID. And gradually over the months, all the kind of restrictions and the regulations stopped being applied, the hand sanitizing and the mask wearing. It seems like people are just back to normal. We don't have to live through that again. I did also enjoy, is maybe not the right word, it was nice to have no pollution, no noise, not so much traffic. Now I think we're back to where we were before with, as many or not more people travelling by air. And sadly, I think public transport has reduced. People are still maybe a bit wary of travelling on trains and buses, so there's more car use. In some senses, that did feel like a new beginning in COVID. The fact that people could see the environmental benefits.